In the name of Allah, in the heart of Islamic history, there exists a pivotal battle filled with courage and faith known as the Battle of Khaybar. This battle took place in 629 AD in the land of Khaybar, where the Jews lived in their fortified strongholds. At that time, Muslims, led by the noble prophet of Islam, Muhammad, faced many challenges. Khaybar was not only a strategic region, but also a symbol of the resistance and power of the Jews. This battle was not only a significant test for the Muslims, but also an opportunity to demonstrate their unity and faith in the face of difficulties. In this scenario, we will explore the events of this battle and its impacts on the history of Islam. Let us embark on this fascinating journey together. The Jews in Medina were among the wealthy and learned individuals, and they always promised the people of Medina the coming of the Prophet of the last days. When the Prophet began to invite people to Islam and then decided to migrate from Mecca to Medina, the Jews decided to welcome the Prophet and examine the signs of him that they had read about in the Torah. When the Jews compared the signs, they realized that he was indeed the promised prophet mentioned in the Torah. However, they were very upset because they believed that the prophet who was to come would be from the Jewish lineage, while the last prophet was Arab and from the Banu Hashim clan. Only a few Jews accepted Islam, while the rest set conditions for the prophet, demanding that they be placed in a superior position over the Muslims, which the prophet refused. I have narrated the story of the prophet's prophecies in the Torah and the Gospel in the second video for you. When the prophet rejected the Jews' proposal, they began to harbor animosity towards him and sow discord among the Muslims. Eventually, when the Islamic government was being formed, they signed a treaty agreeing not to collaborate with the enemies of the Muslims and to cooperate with the Muslims in defending Medina. However, they violated the treaty, and the prophet expelled them from Medina. The Jews who betrayed the treaty during the Battle of the Trench and were expelled from Medina sought refuge with the Jews of Khaybar. Khaybar was a region with large and fortified castles, a fertile land where its people engaged in agriculture and had many date palm groves. The expelled Jews allied with the Jews of Khaybar and created problems for the prophet and the Muslims. Eventually, the prophet decided to confront the Jews of Khaybar. In the 7th year of Hijrah, in the month of Muharram, the prophet entered the land of Khaybar with an army of 1,400 Muslims, while the Jewish forces numbered 20,000. The Muslim army entered the land of Khaybar at night without the Jews being aware, and in the morning, they were caught off guard by the sight of the Muslim army. The first battle took place at the first fortress, where the Muslims emerged victorious and the defeated Jews retreated to a larger fortress. When the Muslim army reached the larger fortress, they found it had strong and high walls, making it nearly impossible to penetrate. One of the Jewish commanders came out to fight and boasted, but Imam Ali voluntarily went out to confront him, defeated him, and killed him. Then, the prophet entrusted the flag to 2 men on 2 different occasions to go and conquer the fortress, but they returned defeated. The prophet said, "Tomorrow I will give the flag to someone whom I love and whom Allah also loves, and he will bring honor to Islam." Everyone was waiting to see who it would be. The next day, after sunrise, the prophet said, "Call Ali, I want to give him the flag." They replied that Ali's eye was sick and he was in pain. The prophet insisted, "Call him so he can come," and the soldiers called for Imam Ali. When he arrived, the prophet placed his hand over Ali's eye and it was healed. This was one of the miracles of the Battle of Khaybar. Imam Ali then set out towards the fortress of Khaybar, with the army following behind him. He first invited them to Islam and then advanced alone, uprooting the large door of Khaybar and setting it he told the Muslims to attack, and they stormed the fortress. The Jews did not resist much and surrendered. The prophet had instructed that no harm should come to women and children. The uprooting of the door by Imam Ali was a sign of his strength from Allah and is considered one of the miracles of the Battle of Khaybar. His action boosted the morale and motivation of the Muslims and instilled fear and anxiety in the hearts of the Jews. When the Jews were defeated, the Prophet expelled them from the land of Khaybar. However, they spoke to the Prophet about staying in that land, and he forgave them on the condition that they would take half of their produce and give the other half to the Muslims. The Prophet used the wealth and war spoils obtained in Khaybar to support the poor and the soldiers. On the way back from Khaybar, one of the Jewish women prepared food for the Prophet and his companions, which she had poisoned, causing one of the Prophet's companions to become ill and die a year later. However, the Prophet was aware of the poison in the food and did not eat it. Thus, the Muslims were freed from the harassment of the Jews and returned to Medina. Dear friends, in the next video, I will talk about a significant event in Islamic history, the conquest of Mecca by the Muslims. Stay with me.